Welcome to The Carpenter's Daughter,
the show where we dig into politics, culture, policy, and faith, and pretty much everything in between.
Every week, we sit down to talk about the issues shaping our world.
I'm Iffy Ike, author, writer, and perpetual question asker.
I'm Alexis Confer, political organizer, artist, and someone who loves a deep dive.
We bring our experiences, our curiosity, and our commitment to community
to unpack what's happening, why it matters, and how it impacts all of us. This is The Carpenter's Daughter. Let's get into it.
I can't believe we're actually doing this.
I know. It feels like several years in the making, but definitely at least a full year in the making since the last presidential election.
Oh, yeah. I guess we'll center that that thing. But yeah, we're here. I'm Carpenter's daughter, like Destiny's Child.
Exactly. That was a good clarification for everyone listening. That is solo daughter, but it can be applicable to anybody.
It's not Victoria's Secrets. Exactly. It's Victoria's secret. It's one secret.
Yeah.
With many options.
Well, that leans into just like verbiage usage in the current English definition. If you have a plural with a singular.
No, I mean, first of all, it's super dope to not only do this with you. I think that by it not being pluralized, there's like a unity in what it is that I think we're trying to do.
Yeah.
If we can just be very, very honest when it comes to like the current climate right now, we're fucking exhausted. Ooh, I don't know if cursing, if I wanted people to know I cursed that quickly, but that is actually my truth.
But I was going to say, we carry multitudes, and I think that went for so many years. I mean, I don't think I cursed till the age of 14 just because of being a pastor's daughter, but I've really released it after being in years of politics.
Yeah, you're the first pastor's daughter that said that it's because they're a pastor's daughter that's why they waited, but okay.
Well, I'm a dash seventh heaven and a dash, footloose.
Wasn't the guy in seventh heaven like a...
Yeah, he's done. He's not. He wasn't. As far as we know, he's not in the Epstein files, but he could be, for all we know.
We said politics would come a little later, so let's. But we're here.
We're here.
And politics aside, because I think we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I think it's cool for us to kind of reflect briefly on even the journey to getting to this point, and want to kind of start with I don't know if people even know, hey, Alexis.
Hey, Effie.
Yeah, I don't even know if we introduced ourselves. We just started talking. But we've known each other. So we've known each other, and then we didn't know each other. We didn't know that we knew each other.
Yeah. There was a period of time. And maybe we knew each other at an even younger age that we don't know about. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just I love this moment for so many reasons. Like, one, we've been talking about this podcast for a year, but we've been having podcast dialogue before we knew podcasts were a thing.
We probably should have recorded all the stuff that we talked about before. So I feel like these microphones are going to make us be very, very, very sterile.
Yeah.
But the popcorn of things that come up range from art and movement. And we're both producers in different ways. We're both directors in different ways. We also have people that don't know that we do those things and know us in siloed spaces. And because we kind of share a backyard with New York City, we're also Jersey born girls. So there's we're a little bit of both.
Yeah. There's a special Jersey New York blend that I don't think people quite get when you grow up in New Jersey, but you spend extensive time in New York. And I think that it's a real shorthand that, and people also don't know that Jersey might be one of the smallest size states, but the population is just incredibly large.
I think it's the most densely populated state.
So I've lived in North Jersey, Central Jersey, and South Jersey, which are its own culture in each location.
Yeah, because I know from people that are listening, when they hear, oh, New Jersey, New York, they're pretty much the same. And I'm like, pause. No. I grew up outside of Philly. It's very different.
Exactly.
So yeah. Well, I want to just throw out to you as to when you think about this moment right now and why we're even doing this, so many voices, so many podcasts. What makes you feel like this moment is the moment we need to be doing this right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons. One thing that I continually come back to is grace and relationship. I think about our friendship and it has been a long time, but the amount of like real learnings we've done together, the amount of like grace we've shown each other in our own journey to adulthood has been really remarkable. And I think it's kind of like how we walk through the world. But when I think about the vitriol in this moment and just the lack of listening to one another, the lack of kind of human understanding, it just really hurts my heart. I never really felt like my voice is a voice that must be heard,
right?
On TV or radio. Like I've always kind of lived my life as a servant, a public servant, and I feel like you have too. But in this moment, when you see it dominated by the same type of voices, very male dominated, very side focused, where I feel like, am I watching the Super Bowl? Am I watching people discuss what's going on? It's so one dimensional that I feel like I want to just show authentic conversation. And I also want to like make myself vulnerable in a way that maybe I wouldn't have in the past, and show that like you can hold multitudes, as we talked about. You can be someone who speaks out about things that you see that are wrong, even if it means kind of putting yourself a little bit in the line of conversation and fire. And we've talked about that a lot of like, every time, even people putting out kind things on the internet so quickly gets rebuked, and this kind of culture of, I think people want connectivity. And so they find it in ways that you find that kind of connective culture of, even if you're all going into for something that's kind of more hate fueled, but you feel like that sense of community and belonging. And I think there's tons of people who still want to put kindness into the world and want to find that connectivity through creativity, through sisterhood, through meaningful long-term friendships. And I think that modeling that behavior is going to be more and more needed in all of these spaces. I mean, what about you?
No, I think as we go through this journey, there'll be so many more reasons, I hope, as to like why we're doing this right now. I think some of the reasons why we haven't jumped at doing this when we initially first started talking about this was some of what you raised, which is just like, there's an investment in attacking versus building. And for both of us that are so interested in designing things that work, right? Like, I don't have the time. Like really fixing problems, listening to people, ensuring that solutions that are designed to help people are done with like the right spirit, the right intentionality. And so when you consume things that are just not community focused or people focused, that feels like, even when you're speaking a counter to that, I think for the longest I was like, I don't really want to center that. I don't want to be the opposition. I don't even want to entertain being the opposition to negativity, right? So that I feel like was the resistance. But there are a couple things that I do think at this moment are helpful for people that need help. And I think one of those things is like, we do exist, like individuals who care deeply about people. And for us, I think part of what unites us is our faith, but regardless of what an individual's faith practice is, because faith has been so used in what I believe are extremely harmful ways, centered to enrich individuals that don't have our best interests, divide communities that are already experiencing marginalization, and invested in attacking whatever is like bringing us together towards liberation for all people. There is a risk, but there's also this like, you know what? Yeah, like we have something to say that could help that. I also believe that we need a little bit more balance on the bravery and the risk taking that it takes to be like, actually, that's not really aligned with a faith-centered practice, right? And so while I don't think we're going to be here as like Bible scholars or, even centering our lives as lives of perfection, I think some of what needs to be said a bit is that it's not even the perfect iteration of scriptures or perfect iteration of quotes, or even the careful selection of the things that make us look good that we should be touting, as much as like all great things that I know of were done by regular people.
Yes, that's right.
That had a conviction that centered their communities, and that were flawed, but they were consistent in making sure that evil was not ignored. And I that may sound like a little bit like, whoa, like heaven and hell and whatever, fire and brimstone. But no, I do think that I have gotten to the point where it's like, no, we are experiencing extreme wickedness, and we, as long as I'm alive, I don't want to just sit on the sidelines while that's happening. And what I do appreciate about what we have done over the last year has also been like, okay, well, how do we, in a society where there's a certain culture that historically has always wanted to not only be dominant, but to suppress other communities. How do we also create a space where there's joy and there's life, and that they are not centered or like coming at least out of our lips all the time? Right. And so it just really felt good for us to come to this evolution of like, what makes us feel good about the Jesus that we serve. And it's like humble dude, humble beginnings, except for that, that kind of like, spiritual insemination.
And a helper too. And someone
like a builder and somebody that like really was of the people and is not what people are touting today that they follow. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this is like one thing that maybe a lot of people don't know about us is our deep faith. And this is something that you and I have kind of wrestled with. Like, we have moved through movement spaces, we moved through creative spaces, which I think people know a little less about some of our creative spaces. But, you and I both have worked in mainstream politics, advocacy work, movement. You've done incredible acts for others. I mean, from anything from the programs you build to like how you put your body on the front line of activism so many times. And I think what people maybe miss sometimes is that that's because of this deep moral conviction that you have to help others. I feel that same pull. And I think kind of what really popped this podcast out last year around the elections was just like this kind of misinformation as well. And this element of, for me, the values of faith, hope, and love transcend any religion, any doctrine.
Right.
Those are the core values in which you should work through the world. And when you see kind of just hate spewed in order to hold others down, to oppress others, I mean, it gets to the point where you can't sit on your hands anymore. And I think you're right. The people that often are doing some of the most meaningful work are the ones that don't get that platform. And I think you and I are our storytelling background, our theatrical work, your writing of your book, and all the incredible work you've done to put content out. You recognize that the stories that need to be held up are the people who are doing kind of immeasurable sacrifices for their community, the people who are doing mutual aid, the people who are giving of their last coin. Like, so many teachings in the Bible actually are about people giving the little bit that they have for the benefit of many people. And we're missing that spirit. And I think the great thing about it is we can have these conversations and still have it in a fun, creative way where people can also find joy and connectivity. Like, you and I have been talking a lot about like the loneliness that people feel, the fact that people don't feel a sense of belonging. And the more we divide each other, quite frankly, the less we're going to get to that end goal of wanting to feel that sense of belonging and feel like we're loved.
Yeah. And I mean, your work has also inspired not just me, but many. Like, you have a breadth of expertise, but also like really I don't care if it's, I have a wedding coming up. You're probably going to be the wedding planner. Like, you can execute.
I need to channel my energy.
You can execute things in ways that I think people miss when it comes to like things that come out into the world. Don't just happen. There's somebody that's organizing it, implementing it, executing it, being on top of the operations, and that stuff is behind the scenes work. It's gritty, it's ugly, it's dirty. Those people don't get enough flowers, and I want to just say that you deserve your flowers. You are that operations person. I've seen you in gun violence work, but also not just gun violence work, but work that like supports survivors, making sure that they get centered. I've seen you eat a lot of humble pie when you are in spaces of leadership, and the main thing is the main thing. So it's not even that the critique doesn't deserve a response, but you I've seen you in spaces build some of the biggest strategies in New York City and nationwide behind the scenes. And I say that because it is weird that we're building a podcast where people are going to be seeing us and, you know, looking at us, and it's public, but that that behind the scenes integrity is part of, number one, what I think we're all collectively mourning. When you said you're a public servant, we have so many public servants
that's right.
that have been doing this work when it comes to government. Government is not WWF. Government is not a reality show. Government are people that come in and are committed to doing whatever it is that their task is, however menial it is, and making sure that it runs and runs efficiently so that people can have what they need. And that seems like something I don't know. Government is in some ways so boring that you never really thought that it would be the thing that's attacked. But now that it's attacked, and now that we're seeing that the people that I think we would consider, whether we know them or not, to be aligned in spirit of just making sure that we move beyond the vitriol of politics and move towards policy, those people are being not even just dismissed, but demonized as like a significant part of the problem. And we'll definitely get into like the things that aren't working, but I just wanted to uplift that who you are is part of the reason why we're so close. You may be my only close white girlfriend.
I'm honored.
Intentionally. And I say that in a way that, like, if people haven't noticed, you are not light skinned, and we are.
You need clarity.
You know, and I say that because I think for those that do know even a little bit about my work, like, I am unapologetic about Black liberation. I'm unapologetic about how Christian white nationalism is really strategically being used in a way that I think is confusing for people to either like know how to combat it. Because if you've never experienced it, it's like, what is this? They're kind of using Bible verses, so maybe they know what they're talking about. Or it's threatening. Like, it's just one of those things where if you're not a person who's of Christian faith, you probably are a part of a community that has been attacked by individuals that have touted themselves as Christian. And then because we have different walks of life, there is a real tension between communities. One of many is, you know, just femininity and femfolk do not all have the same experiences. So it is very, it may be trippy to some that do know me. That's like, wow, how far is this gonna go? And it's like, well, I've known her for a long time. I think we're gonna be okay. But I put that out there because one of the things that we wanted to challenge ourselves about is that, like, our lives are an embodiment of things that are very surface, but also a lot of struggles that people don't know that we both have gone through, even in spaces that claim that they were fighting for us. And I do want people to feel comfortable with the messiness, the nuance. You know, we'll get through these little like beginner jitters or whatever, because when we get on a roll about like the worlds we want to see, and not even just the problem, but the world we want to see, we've also built some really dope stuff, right? And I think that oftentimes what doesn't get centered are people that are like, I enjoy working with another builder, and we're going to need more builders to be imaginative and risky. And so,
I remember distinctly, thank you for all those beautiful words. And I remember the first day meeting you. I don't know how much you remember this our first day, but we were Center for American Progress. Yeah, it was right after
when you chased
Sandy
me
Hook
down in the hallway.
I was like, you look so fabulous. I was like, I have to meet this person. I was sitting in the back, and you were sitting in the back, and we started talking. And we found out that I moved out of Ewing, New Jersey when I was 10 years old.
Yeah, you actually chased me to the elevator.
That sounds like me.
Excuse me, are you iffy? And I was just like, yes. Do you know?
I don't know how I put it together. Like I guess I was looking at your bio or something, but I chased you down, and you were so gracious to be chased to the elevator. And I just remember us hitting it off right away. I left with one friend at 10 years old, Nadej Dorival, and she happened to be your sister's best friend. And
one of my sister's best friends,
and it was just beautiful. And it was kind of that we kept on trying to find ways to reconnect after that. I remember every time we did a lot around gun violence at first, and through your work with Lucy McBath and all the incredible work you did with Trayvon Martin's family. And unfortunately, the list goes on of the type of conversations we had to have back then. And I clocked you immediately as just like this fearless person I must be in circles with. And now that I know you more, and you always talk about, now being more of an introvert. That's what I'm thinking like, she can just do anything, But honestly, if you fear aside, whether you felt fear in those moments of helping people or not, the way you put your time and body on the line in Ferguson, the way you uplifted so many people in the gun violence prevention movement, where quite frankly,
thank you.
It was a time, and continues to be a time, where the communities most impacted by gun violence are not kind of the center of the spotlight. But I think you were pivotal in shifting some of that work around the mothers of the movement, the women who are coming forward, the loss of children that did not get centered on national television, did not get centered by even organizations at the time. And
it was rough.
Yeah, it was a rough time, and you had to really elbow into rooms. And, it was not lost on me. And then when we had our time in City Hall together then, and you were working at the Young Men's Initiative, one of the programs that was definitely blood, sweat, and tears, but NYC Men Teach, of getting more male teachers of color into the classroom. Like, you literally, no pun intended, like birthed that thing. Like it was.
I tried to kill it first. I think I can now reveal it's just turned 10. I tried to kill that thing. I tried to kill that thing because if you remember at that time, Mayor Bill de Blasio decided to make an amazing statement in Brownsville. I don't know, seemed like lack of data and facts, and just declared from the mountaintops that we are going to recruit 1,000 Black and Latino men to be in the classrooms, new teachers to be in the classroom within 3 years. And I said, what in the freaking island of Melatonia is he talking about? And then nobody said anything about it because it was nuts. Nobody's finding 1,000 Black and Latino men to go back into the spaces that terrorize them from ages like 5 through 18. So I was like, and every time our boss, Deputy Mayor Beery, kept asking where this plan was, and you would come to our team. For those that don't know, you were the chief of staff.
Yeah,
so you would come and you'd be like, hey, want to know if you guys have any thoughts on this strategy. And I, the researcher in me was just like, I'm going to prove to them that this is impossible. Yeah. So I went down the rabbit hole and was just like white paper after white paper of like why we shouldn't do it, and literally convinced myself, every time we went to Deputy Mayor Beery, he would look at this and he would just be like, yeah, and this is why we need to. Yeah. It literally backfired, but I have to admit that I actually tried to kill it. And I tried to kill it not even because I felt like it was such a big thing to build. I tried to kill it because I actually did not feel like the will was there for our city, as liberal as people think that it is, to really confront the racism and the bias and the ways that we look at Black people and specifically Black men, and all these different factors, Black men in a classroom, in an industry that's mostly white women, and like all this research about like what got killed after Board of Education, Brown v. Board of Education, and a whole teaching community decimated, but also really, really honor that there's also this unspoken profession of Black teachers, Black male teachers that were in the classroom, some of the first teachers in this nation. And I just didn't feel that we were in a position to recruit, to really have an open recruitment that spoke to really all of, all men, and specifically men of color from various backgrounds. I didn't think we had the bravery to do it. We had the resources, but shout out to, Deputy Mayor Beery. Like, he made sure the resources were not going to be the thing that hindered us from doing that. I would say the same thing with when you built universal, pre-K for all. All of y'all out there taking credit for y'all lying. She can't say it. You're lying. You didn't do it. I promise you we were there. We got receipts. Some of us have pictures. Like, Alexis,
there were a lot of people working.
A lot of people were working on it, and you. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I think some of the legacy, or some of what we both have gone through, is being erased from our own work. So I am calling you out, as it's something that should expand and scale up. It wouldn't be here if you weren't working on it, period.
Well, y'all can find me. And to go back to NYC Men Teach, just to throw it back on you, I can only take it for
no. Because that also wasn't just me, right? But I also want to call out that it was Black and brown femme folk that were working on it. And that's fine, because I want us to dispel the myth that for us to create equitable strategies, it must be, it doesn't make it any less of a project or a successful program because women were at the forefront of ideating the strategy. And I also want to shout out that the men who have been in the trenches with us have been amazing and uplifting. The equity of it was not just about men in classrooms. It was about how do we actually revolutionize classrooms, period, that statistically show that our children have different experiences when they're in the classroom, right? And so how do you create that strategy? Yeah, I just, I don't want to go on and on about it, but it just celebrated 10 years. And anytime you have a city program that lasts that long and, is supporting as a model, the start matters. It just matters.
Yeah, we've talked, both of us have talked about pre-K for all and NYC Men Teach. Like, if I think back in my career, I'm super proud of what we did. I'm so proud of NYC Men Teach. And, you mentioned the word equity. Yeah, it was a very good catch. Very good catch. Very good. I know, I'm like, do I need my little iPad here? Speaking of equity, you wrote a book called Equity Mindset, which,
oh my God, what are we doing?
It's really powerful. But I want to say the thing about the equity piece of it, because I feel like equity has become this like evil word, and we're talking about public service and like kind of our journey to this moment in time. And we know like 300,000 Black women have been pushed out of government. We know that civil servants, to your point, are being like doxxed and being kind of put down as like, contrary to American values, contrary to like the values we all espouse, contrary to Christian values. Apparently empathy is a sin, which I really don't recall Jesus ever saying that, but I'm happy to read a Bible verse that says that.
Is that the conversation? Do people?
Yeah, people are saying that empathy is a sin.
Oh, really?
And we're trying to do something highlighting builders and carpenters and people who are working to be public servants that we talked about. How do you do that?
First of all, shortest but most impactful scripture in the Bible, Jesus wept.
He's weeping.
So empathy, it can't be a sin.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Girl, I'm so mad. What's your question again?
Well,
equity.
How do we focus, on building right now when it's like people don't even want to talk about? People are demonizing public service. People are demonizing people who want to. People are demonizing people who run food pantries. Right. Like what are we about?
So where do I start? The first thing that I want to say is that we have to kind of remove ourselves from like the fantasy of, in this case, like government, America, justice, law. That's just my opinion. Like starting from that start allows me to be realistic about like we wouldn't need equity if there wasn't inequity.
That's right. Yeah.
So something's wrong. I don't necessarily say things are broken. I think that is the way we've been taught growing up, is that the system is broken and, it's not working. And it's like, no, the system is working exactly how it was designed. And therefore, maybe we need to restructure. Government's purpose should be to reverse engineer and to also unlearn and get rid of the things that were intentionally designed to keep people out. We don't talk about it like that. And so as a result, we have a little bit of a confusing pool of individuals who want to maintain that design, but also people who work behind a lot of these systems that frankly just also never got the training around equity and talk about it in a very simplistic way as to like, make them feel like, oh, I'm not racist, or I'm doing the best that I can do, or it's not me, or, we're doing the best that we can. It's not our fault that young people aren't, graduating. And I would actually push back and say it is. Like it is a collective failure for us to talk about school to prison pipeline this long without it being eradicated. But you have to have the will for that to happen, right? So I think, when you say like, how do we deal with this, right? The first thing is like recognizing that like our starting point has to be from a place, like if we say we love people, then love and truth have to be in the same space. Yes. But then the flip side is that we know this because we're around these people. There are people doing this work. This is part of the reason why we wanted to start this podcast, because there are people that are building in spite of, and as you mentioned, they don't get the spotlight. Nobody's really talking to them or with them. They're not co-creators, or they're not seen as co-creators and solutionists. And and also many of them are also the ones that are attacked every day. But I think the real thing is like, for me, that's always encouraging, is like, there are people that are attacked every day and they still come back to do the work for people, to make sure they get what they need, that they are clothed, that they are fed. And to me, they're the salt of the earth, right? And so at the very least, I get frustrated when people who are in spaces of public service, if you can't do it because the office that you're in doesn't have the tools or the leadership to do it, that's one thing. But at least protect the people who are doing it. Right. Protect the people that somehow have less resources than most and are still able to like ensure that like our communities are taken care of. And I think it's a threat to really focus on those people. And my thing is like, good, like let's if that's the type of threat that we need, then let's keep putting the spotlight on that. Let's keep spotlighting joy. Let's keep having the hard conversations and recognize that like when you achieve, like I think I said it in the book and I say it often, that like the reward for equity is more equity. Like you should not get mad at equity. That's like getting mad at love. Like, bitch, you love me too much. Like, what's wrong with you? Right? Like, take this love. Like, stop it. And I think that that's what has happened, is that we have normalized this limit. Like there's a limit to how joyful people should live. And I'm like, imagine that the richest country in the world is saying that there's a limit to the quality of somebody's life. That's pretty sickening. And then the people that talk opposite that are the bad ones. Like that's what I think we just want to challenge a bit.
It's 100%. It's a scarcity mentality that if I were to give a bit of my love, my time, my attention, my resources to others, then I won't have enough. And honestly, if people are a true follower of Jesus Christ, like, I mean, my favorite whole section of the Bible are the parables of Jesus. He broke it down to like a second grade understanding, kind of how you're supposed to live. So like the Good Samaritan was a person from the other land that looked nothing like this person who was hurt. And many people who knew that person, who were neighbors to that person, walked by when that pain was happening. And then the Samaritan came along, gave the clothes off their back, gave the only money in their pocket, put them in a hotel for a night, and left more money for their kind journey. And, you know, without thought for their own resources. And, you know, when I see this kind of hoarding of wealth, this kind of hoarding of kindness, it just makes me sick, quite frankly. And it's so counter to any manifestation of the type of teaching I know of faith, hope, and love. And I think that's like why you and I were, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pissed. I am upset about how we are using things to keep down people and twisting the words of many great faith teachings, even beyond Christianity, that also focus on these core values, or no faith teaching at all, whether you believe in the universe or Mother Earth or just like the common good in others, you're never going to live a life of sadness if you do for others. Like it's just the most incredible thing to serve actually serves you as much as it serves the person that you're giving that.
I mean, I think that one of the things that I want to just offer is that most people who call themselves Christians aren't. And in the spirit of Malcolm X, I'm also willing to concede that, as he said, I don't have a problem with Christ. I have a problem with you Christians, right? So I'm willing to concede that people, I've said this many times, like, I'm not going to fight over a word. If y'all are the Christians, I ain't. I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
Like, I don't have a problem with that. I think that the fight over Christianity, to be honest with you, is part of, it's like a red herring. It's part of the issue that has led to this supremacy of Christianity, which I don't even necessarily believe that Jesus believed in the supremacy of Christianity, because here's a little secret, y'all. Just come a little closer. Come closer.
I know it.
Jesus wasn't Christian.
He also wasn't white. I'm just going to say that too.
Wasn't white, but more importantly, wasn't Christian. So I'm not offended when people want to say, well, that's not what is in the Bible. That's not. And I'm like, or they reference things that are not in the, that are in other parts that are not like what Jesus stated or quoted. Listen, whatever. Like, I grew up, they forced us to read about Hercules and fucking, Aphrodite and whatever. So I look at it like, okay, fine. Even if you don't see the Bible as like your dicta or what you adhere to, you got to admit that there's some pretty juicy stories. And I mean, there's some juicy things in there. Like, there's some things that you can like glean from, learn from. And it's not even necessarily about transforming your entire belief system. But I find it very interesting that the individuals who claim that they're Christian, I'm like, what Jesus are you following? Like, what Jesus were you looking at? And I'm actually reading a lot more about how Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism, focuses way more on, number one, Old Testament God, but also intentionally does not focus on who Jesus was, because to focus on who Jesus was would literally be an admission of the relationship that Jesus himself had as a poor person, and therefore his relationship with his community, which were other poor people. And that would literally have to be the motivator of why you would call yourself, like, the term Christian literally comes from like Jesus, the Christ. I know these are things that are so obvious. In some ways, we should be called like Jesusans. I guess that's why people call themselves Jesuits. But I say all that to say that, like, I don't think that people are confused about the ways that they're using Christianity. And I do think that because Christianity is so much of Christianity in Western culture is about control, it is also about continuing to scare people about other realms, including heaven and hell, and also not saying the quiet thing out loud, which is that a lot of people are invested in both being right with God and being white. And when you put those two things together, it literally erases Jesus.
Yeah.
Like you said, because Jesus wasn't white. So Jesus can't be your focus.
He can't be that. And to your point, we are not Bible scholars. I'm Bible scholar adjacent. My dad's a pastor, as you know, Lutheran.
I'm adjacent. But...
yeah, I'm adjacent. And, we've talked about this so many times with my dad. I'm like, I just kind of can't make sense sometimes of how things get so flipped. But you be
trying to make sense.
I know, I'm trying to make sense. It's really foolish. But there are 400 or more Bible verses around give away your wealth. Your wealth is not of this world. There's like one verse in, I think, the Old Testament about a man lying with another man, and that just gets so in people's craw because they have to use Christianity to identify, to tie into other systems they want to uphold, to exactly your point. So they can They can justify hateful teachings. They can justify exclusion. Jesus talked about do not put the law above the people. And I think that's lost so much. Jesus died with nothing on his back. He died as an outcast. He died as an activist. And, you know, as we were thinking about this podcast, I'm sure people are expecting us just to pop off on whatever election just happened or talk about the federal government. But I think, you know, one thing that really intrigued me about having this conversation in community with you is we've been there with each other through so many tough times, through so many wonderful times. And I actually think kind of our grounding in this true teaching of service, however that shows up, has really given me a lot of strength in my life. You know, it's given me strength when I'm around other people who really root themselves in these deep convictions. And so, you know, I'm not trying to judge others, but it's really frustrating when it gets so weaponized and used in just the most violent and rhetoric-driven ways.
I'm judging, and I'm telling you why I'm judging. Yeah. Whiteness uses the concept of not judging other people. Like that's what whiteness prescribes onto everyone. And I always have to explain to people that whiteness is not necessarily about white people, but it is about a mindset of white supremacy. So judgment is something that white culture largely says other people can't do while they do it. Yeah, and so for me, I'm judging because if we can't, if we don't judge, then that is almost me at least acquiescing that white culture is beyond correction. And right now we are in need of severe correction. Yeah. We are in need of severe repair. And we are too afraid to say, like just flatly, like call yourself whatever you want. But you all are false. Like if this were to be biblical times, y'all would be false prophets. And hey, do what you got to do. Stay over there because I don't want that lightning striking on me. But I feel like it's you don't have the conviction to enslave other people and to kidnap other people and to rape other people on your own. So you've got to use something outside of who you are to basically trick people. And I find that to be making Jesus a mascot is one of the biggest like magic tricks of white dominant culture. And it comes with all of these rules, golden rules. It comes with all of these like do unto others as you would have, them do unto you. All of these things which are like twisted principles that have some type of like biblical connection, but they're taken out of context. And they also don't allow for the equal application for all people, right? I do believe that part of the reason why so many individuals have a hard time identifying themselves as Christian as they should is because of that lack of correction, right? And that's why I say to folks, like, I'm not stuck on what you call yourself. I personally am not stuck on being labeled a particular thing. I know who I am. And I am never, ever, ever going to deny like the influence that Jesus has had on my life because Jesus influences my work. Jesus to me is a liberator. I see myself as being an extension of liberation. And I do see Black liberation as being one of the most Christian things that Christian people should be focused on. But I find it very hurtful and harmful that we, move through society without the proper calling out of both the hypocrisy. But to be honest with you, even when hypocrisy is called out, people have to also question, but why don't people care that they're being called hypocrites? Like, you must have the power. You must have a lot of power to not care about the hypocrisy, or to feel like this thing that you supposedly believe in, that you don't care that you may be using that entity to not only wrongly, but to suppress other people. That's a wild type of
shame seems to be missing in current society of like, I mean,
not just current,
always society,
right?
But it's almost brazen disregard for facts, brazen disregard for hypocrisy. I mean, I would be so upset if someone called me a hypocrite, and I'm sure I've been hypocritical many times in my life, but it's almost like a badge of honor these days of like, yeah, I said that last week, but I didn't mean that. Oh yeah, I did that action, but you misinterpreted. Oh, that's fake news. Oh, that's whatever else. And there's no accountability.
None.
There's no accountability, no grace, no accountability, no self-awareness, it really feels like in today's society, particularly with white Christian nationalists, of just like, you're going to church on a Sunday, but then you're coming and spewing hate later that day online or in life, or isolating other people out. And you know, I know this is a heavy topic and people should expect some of this on this podcast.
This is an appetizer. Shit. Please pull up a chair. No. And you know, and I mean, we should give, I think it's helpful to give folks context, right? Like you are a daughter of a preacher who also, you know, comes from a faith-based, like faith social justice based, you know, mindset. For me, like I have a mother who's a deaconess, a dad who thinks he wrote Proverbs. I first generation. So that even like that influence of what it means for parents that grew up in a colonized community and society. But also have like worked in ministry and raised and merged like justice and faith together since I was a child. Even before I knew that faith and justice could be mixed like that, it always made sense to me that that is the purpose. Since I was a kid, that is the reason why we are here. Like, I'm in the army of the Lord and we are here to set the captives free and we're gonna, you know, fight. I mean, to get to an age where it's like, oh shit, that's not what you fighting for. Like, then what you like? What are you going to? You know, what are you going to church for? And what are your teachings around? But also from a academic level, like my background is in research, and I'm a lawyer, and so for me, like, and as somebody who teaches like African American legal history and what have you, the reason why people can, you know, do this and some of that lack of accountability is that we don't hold people to the history of like that there's a long lineage of this happening, right? Like people went to church and then they lynched. People went to church and then they went to auction blocks. People went to church and used the church to create internment camps, whether it was Black people, Japanese communities, immigrant communities. And because it's been more harmful to say that's racist and call somebody out for racism than the actual experience of racism, we also have a history of deflecting from correction because those who are in power control both sides of the messaging. So they're both the victims of being deemed racist, but they're also the perpetrators of causing racism. And when you're not in the majority, it's hard. You cannot hold individuals like that accountable. And that is our media right now has just kind of like flown off the handles where now it's almost a sport. Like for folks to glorify that they're Nazis is crazy. Nazi behavior was not only always here, the Nazis learned from Jim Crow. They learned from us here. So people also don't understand the history of like, we didn't learn it from them. They watched us treat specifically Black people in America. And that's what encouraged them to create one of the wildest, you know, genocides in human history, because they were watching a genocide here, but we don't call it genocide. And so that to me is the hardness of it is like, you know, I always tell people, breathe. You weren't there back then, so it's not you. But I find it to be interesting that in mass, even well-intentioned people shy away from facts. They shy away from history. And I don't know if it's because they're afraid that maybe their uncle, cousin, auntie was one of those that treated people as such. And I like to say, maybe. But then what are we going to do right now?
Yeah, exactly. We can't go back in a time machine and pick when we were born, what country we were born into, what family we were born into. And I think giving up a responsibility because you weren't there when something was created, from trying to change a program in government to trying to change a whole systematic, horrible background in systematic racism, I think can feel overwhelming to the individual. But I think one thing I want people to take from this podcast is like, there is so much you can do in your own home, community, in the things that you can actually affect, that you never know what your ripple effect of kindness will do to heal someone's pain who may be, or give a little aloe to some pain of how someone's been treated historically by someone else. You never know like what that act of service can do for someone who's having a mental health crisis. I mean, I think going back to your conversation topic about like how we're actually, why this podcast, why now? It's because the mic has been with people for so long that are in those positions of power that frequently are either part of the problem or a continuation of the problem.
Right.
And so passing the mic, highlighting the people who are actually doing even little with what they have, or much with the little they have, is really interesting to me, because I think that the average person feels like, wow, even if someone's values aligned and feels like things are bad, they feel like this overwhelming kind of despair of like, well, what can I possibly do? And you know, I've had those moments myself, and you know, I really appreciate you talking about my building background, my architect of programs background, but there's times where, you know, you do kind of get caught up with like, there's so much evil happening right now, and and continuing to happen, but it's just so blatant that it's hard not to be demoralized. But people in power want us to be demoralized.
Yeah.
People systematically want us to shut up and just kind of take what's happening. And you get to a point where you're like, I can't anymore, particularly if you're a person of faith, conviction, and you feel like everyone deserves to have whatever period of time they're on this earth, they get to have joy, they get to have peace, they get to have safety. You know, what brings you joy in this moment? And what would you want people to take from this in a time where like there feels like so many systematic abuses that are happening? It feels like there's so many insurmountable evils happening, not to be too bombastic, but that's the reality.
I mean, like, practically speaking, I think writing music, reminding myself that I have like that I am fully human, and just doing things with my sensory and not needing the validation from the world that I'm human. Now, I think that that can be very hard for a couple of reasons. One of which is I come from a people that are not only very tribal, but communal. So even if I'm doing well, this is why I always struggle with the term self-care. If I'm doing well, it actually, my concept of me doing well is like, is my sister okay? Is my auntie okay? Are my mom, are my parents okay? Like, and are my chosen family okay? Like, it's always like beyond myself. And I actually do challenge whether or not we all are in a space where we actually can fully like self-care. I think there is a privilege in like self-care, but I do believe that many marginalized communities and spaces that I am a member of, one of the things that we have perfected is joy. And sometimes it is the joy that is forced because of pain. But also it's important for us to recognize that we are also joyful people outside of it. And so I think I like the little things, the micro things about human beings, like the fact that we're doing this, the fact that people are even trying, and the fact that, you know, some folks may be fooled, but there's a lot of us that are like, even I may not know what to do, but I know that this isn't cool. That at least gives me a little bit. I'm actually kind of joyful that, like, you know, like kind of like that feeling where like you wiped your ass, but you're not sure if you fully wiped it, right? Like, I'm glad that people feeling like something's up my ass, and I gotta get it off, right? I gotta clean it. Like, I feel like we're at a point where I don't like that it's cyclical. Like, I do think there's a part of me that feels like, class, pay attention. 5 years ago, we were all out in the streets, and now we need to be doing, like, I want people to own that, like, equity should have progress, and that we shouldn't glamorize the marching, even if the marching is necessary. And we shouldn't glamorize the protest, even if the protest is necessary. It's not the protest that makes us more American. It's how more Americans and more people can experience being an American, being free, being, in a democracy. And that happens on the other side of that action. So I feel joy in knowing that more people need to recognize now that they need to be engaged, but I don't want people to rest on that. Because we've talked about that. Yes. You've even contributed. You were a contributor in my book, and you've questioned like, I don't know, these people, they doing some cute activities, which was so crazy. I want people to know that like Alexis was the only white woman contributor in my book, and everybody else was talking about like equity and building and liberation and imagining and dreaming and building. And here comes Alexis, who's like, I don't know if we really got it. I'm sorry. I think people feel good about these words and these definitions, and you were really like intentional about like putting out that a little bit of just almost like, I hope history doesn't repeat itself, but unfortunately, we're not really good with taking the baton further. Right. And so what gives me joy, and I think we, as we wrap this episode, or as we're wrapping this episode and you're also sharing what brings you joy, I think that that's a theme that's going to keep running, is that it sounds like a cheesy word, but hope is really the only reason why I keep doing what I'm doing. Because again, Absolutely. It would be so much easier just to like literally join the wretched choir, make money and just figure shit out by myself. But I'm hopeful that we are invested in a better form of humanity, and I'm excited. Like I'm here.
I mean,
and like for you,
you give me so much hope and joy just being around you. And I think, community is so important to me. And I have a creative community, as you know. I do a lot of theater as my my secondary business to more political activities. And I think we need artists and creatives more than ever right now. And when I'm in rooms with people who are creating beautiful music and creating beautiful theater and writing and just continuing to put beauty in the world, it gives me joy. And I feel like you can feel the percolation of creatives kind of coming to the forefront. Like you and I have talked a lot. Like I think there's like huge concentric circles of like creatives and public servants and politicians, because at the end of the day, we're all motivated to create and not destroy.
Right.
And so, I'll never forget when we were at City Hall, I launched my theater company like 10 years ago, the Mechanicals, and I started like leaving like little,
it's only been 10 years.
Yeah,
That's
10
so
years.
wild.
I know, time flies. But I would leave like postcards on people's desks, and I'd be like, you don't have to come, because I couldn't mix government with my side hustle. But so many people come up to me, from like commissioners to people who are very senior government, be like, well, actually, I was a classically trained, trumpeter, or, oh, I was a theater major, but I decided to go to politics. And it also reminded me that all these kind of like liberation moments you talk about are some like the toughest steps of, human history. The artists were side by side with the activists and the policy makers, and really in community. And a lot of those artists art is activism, just by the pure virtue of creating. And so, I mean, this podcast feels very on brand for you and I, because we kind of go to where like we see the gaps of messaging and creativity. And so I feel hopeful that there's just so many people saying like, this is not right, that we want to continue to create joy and beauty. And I find it with my friends too, like in my community, like just spending time with you. I think you start hearing your own fears and hopes realized and repeated back to you. And I think there's a real beauty and strength in being vulnerable with friends, being vulnerable with families, to say like, I have these fears, but like, what can we do together?
Yeah.
To either have joy and fun together or do something that might be impactful. And so I'm feeling really cautiously optimistic right now that there are more people who want to help. There are more people that want to create than people who want to divide and destruct. And I'm just excited for this next phase.
So I know we both thought about or wanted to think about like how we end these shows, and like thinking whether it's some type of a builder or some type of a carpenter, right? Like that we want folks to kind of like think about or think through. It could be a person, it could be a thought, it could be a quote, it could be something you make up, it could be a rap lyric, it could be anything. But I didn't know if anything came for you for me, I was like really looking at like some old like liberation theology notes, and one I wanna end with this one statement from, and I can't remember it, but from Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I say this because I hate the way that he has been whitewashed in history, because he has so many of these quotes. But one of the things that he states is, any religion that professes to be concerned with the souls of men and women and is not concerned with the slums that damn them, the economic conditions that strangle them, and the social conditions that cripple them, is a dry as dust religion. So some of y'all motherfuckers are dusty. That's how I'd like to end. And, this was a nice intro, but I want people to know that we are also here to let people know that like dry bones, the only way dry bones come back is if we give it life, if we give it water, if we nurture it, but also the way that I think we're going to challenge even our heroes on this conversation. I'm excited to right size their intentions, right? They were very much connected to not only building, but making sure that like oppressed people were at the center of life, and not to stay oppressed, right? To really see oppression as the evil, and for us to move towards that. So I just wanted to raise that, because I thought that felt like part of the spirit behind this. And the other person I want to raise is Taylor Townsend, who went pretty far at the last US Open. And she did an interview on the Pivot podcast. And she said something, I'm going to butcher it, but she said something to the effect of like, she learned that she loved being a fighter. And I find that to be liberating. I think as a Black woman, a lot of the tropes that I get and that I've gotten as a child, literally called intimidating when I was 4 years old and wasn't even speaking, was to run away from this natural calling that also just happened to be that like, no, you fight to make sure people get justice. And it just feels good to like be like, nope, fuck it, I'm a fighter. I fight for people, and I'm still cute while I do it. And I can fuck you up and pray for you afterwards. But my intention is not to run away from the fact that this is a fight. And I think to be honest with you, a lot of the non-correction is that folks want to call out evils, but they don't want to fight. They don't want to do the fight. So fuck it, we have to fight. So that's how I'm ending. Is there
I love that.
Anything that you feel like you want to end with?
I want to really like shout out the child educators, like, and the really little kid educators. I don't have a kid of my own, and I've knew about Miss Rachel through friends who have really little kids. And I grew up on Mr. Rogers, like that was our era. Yeah. And Miss Rachel in my mind really is like a modern day Mr. Rogers, and I'm not the person who came up with that. That's all over the internet. But the way she's been modeling her Christian faith.
Is she a Christian?
She's a Christian.
I didn't know that.
The way she always prioritizes kids, and it doesn't matter where the kids are from. Yeah. She's all about, to your point about 4-year-old Iffy, it's like all 4-year-olds are precious babies.
For sure.
No matter where they are all vulnerable. They are all the least of these. Jesus talks all the time about children. And when I see her fight to kind of continue to push out words of love and affirmation around children, and kind of the backlash she gets for truly espousing those values, it really hits me. Same thing with the people of Sesame Street, PBS, all these incredible, people are probably not making millions off of working these shows, and the way that they speak to the minds of our little ones and really think about future generations, when we could all just stay in the present and think about our own personal needs in our own lifetime. But if you're kind of not building towards the future, then what is our time on this earth really towards, if you can't care for the children, for our most vulnerable, for our elderly? And so, shout out to Miss Rachel, but also the educators on Sesame Street who helped our childhood journey. And I hope they continue to do the incredible work they've been doing.
Well, a major case just said that PBS gets all their funding back. So there you go, motherfuckers.
The podcast is already delivering.
We're already delivering. But no, that was dope. That was dope.
Thank you. And
we're excited.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm thrilled. You know? And the pilot jitters are fleeting.
Oh, good. Good. Yep. So remember, y'all, Carpenter's daughter.
Solo, like Destiny Child.
We're in a ship. Daughter is the name. It's like the love boat, not love boats. That was dope.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophie.
Thank you.
Done.
Amazing.